By the end of this video, I absolutely promise you will be significantly at a higher advantage if you do everything I talk about. These are the 6 ways that an ADHD entrepreneur can get ahead in business. These are the tools you need. Let's begin. First thing is sleep. When people with ADHD don't get enough sleep, we're significantly worse off as far as negative ADHD symptoms go than people who are neurotypical. When we have, say, 6 hours of sleep, we're going to be probably twice as bad as someone who is neurotypical who gets 6 hours of sleep. If we get 8 or more hours of sleep, and I don't know about you guys, maybe it's ADHD, maybe it's thyroid, maybe it's because I work out, I need 9 to 10 hours of sleep to feel at 100%. Get to that 100%. Yes, it's going to take more time. It's going to take a lot of mental effort, and it's super easy to work on your business or pretend you're doing something productive at night or to scroll on social media or watch a movie. Don't do it. I have a few things that make it so I absolutely cannot do it. First of all, my phone charger is in the bathroom and I leave it there. I'm not allowed to take it out, put it by my bed. One reason for that is that Apple literally said you can get brain cancer if you charge your phone by your head at night. For that reason, I leave it in the bathroom. But obviously, the reason I'm talking about now is I don't get distracted and I don't stay up late scrolling on social media. What do you do for an alarm? I have a daylight alarm. So if I ever need it, which normally I don't, it slowly turns on a light and then it beeps when it's done. It's like $10 on Amazon. We do have a TV in our room because my wife can't sleep unless there's a movie playing. But thankfully, we've worked her down to I can now read to her for her to fall asleep. And trust me, that makes me super tired. Sometimes it's really hard because we'll watch a show while we eat dinner. We've stacked up this dopamine, and to go from that to saying, nope, now we're just going to read and go to bed, it doesn't work sometimes. So I'll completely ban a show. I'll say this is too addicting. We have to take a break from it. I have to be able to tell myself this show will still be here. It'll still be here. Even if the platform's like, this show will be taken down in 3 days, I say to myself, I can find it somewhere else, it'll say. There's a lot of things that you do have to have an internal conversation pretty much the entire day to help control what you think. We're going to talk about that in a second. A few other things you can do to help you sleep better. If you could turn down the temperature of your room to 65 or lower, really helps it just helps your mind say it's nighttime. Turning off all lights. I have a blackout curtain over my window, and I have 2 spare windows that are like decorative. I cover those up so that light's not coming in, and yeah, it's kind of gloomy in the bedroom, but the bedroom is just for sleeping. I have a lot of little sayings like that. Bedroom's just for sleeping. Nothing good happens after 8. I say all these things, and it makes me go to bed on time. Now I'm going to do an entire video of it because after years of not going to bed on time and being sleep deprived and having it affect my ADHD negatively, my grades, my life, my social life, my business, it was so bad. It's an addiction. It's terrible. Finally, I think I've gotten to the point where I can sleep consistently at a good time at night, and it's taken a lot of help from my wife. The second thing you're going to really enjoy because it lets you be creative, it lets your ideas show through, and it lets you personalize, and that is having a dedicated workspace. Even if you just have a dorm desk or something like that, really make it your own. And I would avoid putting distractions on there, but having decorative things that aren't distracting, plants, living plants, make it feel like such a good place to be in that you really want to work. I'm going to give you an example. We pay a little bit more in rent. It's a write-off because one of our extra bedrooms that we have is an office. And we've decorated this thing. It has like a dark colored wall. It's good for filming. It's got certain lights everywhere that I can adjust. That you've probably seen in my other videos. That's where I shoot my content. It's incredibly fun to work there. Now, my computer setup isn't exactly where I want to be, but I do have a plan to have a standing desk, the ability to walk, which is really conducive for people with ADHD, especially to be able to do good work. But the best I could say is make a Pinterest board and just start getting one thing at a time. For example, for me, I wanted everything to be whited out, so it was really clean looking. I wanted a whiteboard desk, etc. Now, I haven't been able to get any of that yet, but I've been able to get one thing at a time that contributes to that. Of course, it was a lot cheaper to get black, so everything I have is black, which kind of makes me sad. But one thing at a time, I'm replacing it with white when I have the money. The third thing is your inner mind. You need to have tools in your mind that work for you. Now, I'm just going to give you some examples because I literally cannot talk to what would work for you because everyone is so different. But I'll say what works for me and you can take inspiration from it. Whenever something hard needs to be done, or whenever I need to focus or remember a priority, I'll have a moment, a sit with it moment, I would say, where I let my brain get in the right space. Now, Tony Robbins talks about stuff like this a lot. I don't think he knows this necessarily, but what he says seems incredibly more helpful for people with ADHD than everyone else, especially when it comes to a business, when you have a certain level of responsibilities for, your company and other people, and you have to be self-accountable. You have to be able to get in the right headspace to do difficult work. You have to find tools to be able to do that. Now, I'll tell you what works for me. I'll put on a certain song. I need a hero. I put that on and it makes me, it gets me in the zone, and I'm not tired of it. You know how it is. I'm not sick of that song yet. I'll smile. I'll tell myself, sometimes I'll say, this is the kind of person I am, right? Oh, am I going to do the dishes? Yes, I'm the kind of person who stays on top of my dishes, and I'm the kind of person who makes my wife happy by doing the dishes, It feels good. It takes a second to get in that headspace, but that momentum carries through an entire task for, a solid 45 minutes, I would say, if done properly. It's just going to take practice. I could give you a few more, but I think at this point, I'm just going to make an entire video where I talk about the things that I tell myself that work. Is this going to slow you down? At first, maybe, but the positive effects are significantly more, and you'll actually get used to it to the point where you have these neural pathways, and doing the dishes begins to actually give you some reward on its own. Right now, I think I'm almost at that point, come to think of it. I could do dishes without anyone asking on my own accord pretty easily. The fourth thing is one specific tool, and this should encompass a lot of what you do, but you have to understand how to do it correctly, and that is reminders. Reminders can make a huge difference, and you probably already know this, but I'm going to give you some tips that I didn't figure out till a lot later. First one is only have one source of reminders. Now for me, I think I'm just going to use Notion from now on. However, I do use Siri for a lot of things because it's really easy to just tell her to remind me of things when I think about it. And I use Google Calendar because that's part of my process already. That being said, all the alerts come to one place, my phone. So reminders are very well that way, but there's also little reminders. I have a task list that at certain times of the day, between certain things, I will look at this to remind myself of what should be getting done. I have an entire task list. I have a monitor dedicated to being my task list. But if you don't have that, just have a paper where you've written down your bigger goals when you are in a clear headspace. What this corrects is something called executive function. See, people with ADHD have problems realizing what a priority is. That's why we would do something that gives us dopamine, even a little bit of dopamine, compared to something that doesn't. That's why they say people with ADHD would play video games while their house burns down. You've heard me say that. I'm going to say it again. It's a good analogy. Now, of course, that's not technically true. We have some executive function. For that reason, when you should be able to suss out what's important to you. It just takes a little bit more forethought. The best time I found to do this is at night. In the morning, I'm a little foggy and I'm just jumping into work and doing the hard things first. And it actually feels a lot better that way, I'll tell you what. Then the fun things come later and it just escalates the dopamine and it's such a beautiful way. And at night, after I have the whole day to look at behind me, I'm able to plan my next day. I'm able to say what my priorities are. And just in case I think it's going to be hard, I forget, whatever, I have listed my big priorities where I do my daily tasks. Basically, reminders everywhere. A visual timer is a really good idea so you know how much time is left to do things. Having an accountability partner is awesome. Try to make it simple. Reminders can be overwhelming, so here's what I would say. It's really easy to make reminders. It's really hard to look at them and do them. So you have to have, I would even say like an alarm or something more poignant that will force you to look at your reminder list, to look at what you have going on, so that you really don't have a choice. You have to do the reminders, or at least acknowledge them. Because then what actually happens is something magical. You begin to trust yourself to the point where when you actually make a reminder, it's actually something important that you know you're going to do. There's a real threat of like, hey, wait, I'm actually going to do this. Not just, oh, that'd be a good idea, right? We're all guilty of that. The fifth thing is simplicity. If there was ever a person with ADHD who was a perfect minimalist, definitely hard to do, they would be perfectly productive. I guarantee it. They would be, or at least significantly more productive. If you can eliminate distractions and complications from everything you do, you're going to be in so much of a better place that it would be unreasonable if you were a perfect minimalist for you to not be extremely productive. Now, I'm going to do an entire video minimalism, but having simplicity in what you do, what your focuses are. I would have one goal at a time, one major goal, right? And just let yourself work on that for several days, if it takes several days, until it's to a satisfactory point. And yeah, it might delay things because you're focusing on one thing at a time. You're not trying to juggle things. No, honestly, it makes things go faster. That's actually a fact. The final thing is one that's maybe not specific to people with ADHD, but to entrepreneurs. I will say there are definitely ways to leverage it with ADHD that are more helpful, and I'll tell you those, and that is networking. The one time I successfully started a business was when I had partners. They invested, a little bit, but it was their presence that made me feel very responsible and made me take action to complete building the entire business. And that was one that I sold for a profit, and it felt really good. Right now, I'm going to a networking event. If you have people that you regularly follow up with, it's really easy to make friends that you can rely on. When you have people who can talk to you, hold you accountable, be interested in your goals, it makes it so that you want to focus on that goal and not do something else. It also can never hurt to have a good network of knowing a lot of people and following up with them. I've made a game out of it. I have a spreadsheet of a lot of people I know, and I make sure I regularly follow up with them. And they might not even, no one's caught on yet, but at very regular intervals, I'll follow up with them. Hey, how have you been? Super simple. No one's going to be like, why are they asking that? But you're able to keep that person as a friend, and maybe they'll be like, hey, I'm in town. Do you want to talk? Or, hey, I had this idea. I remember you were working on this. There's all sorts of good connections and benefits to having a network. So that was sleep, having a clean workspace, having mental tools, having reminders, having simplicity in what you do, and having a strong network. Those are the 6 things. If you take action steps on all of those today, you will be in a much better place. Now, I'm going to actually give you specific action steps you can do in the description, so go check that out. Thanks for watching, and have a good one. By the way, if you like this video, there is going to be another video YouTube's recommending to you that, heck, it might be better than this one. And if you want to continue to get solid ADHD business advice from me and experts, I'm going to start interviewing people soon. That'll be exciting. Check it out, subscribe, and get the full value by subscribing.